On the 19th of November 2011, the Defenders of Islam at the IERA, led by the senior wizard Hamza Tzortzis, released their groundbreaking paper on Quranic embryology. This paper was so groundbreaking that just in 3 days, they had to release another one. No! I have decided that instead of making a very long video debunking the entire paper, I will make a short series of short videos. This video will be examining the evolution of the embryology miracle claim, as well as why there is a version 1.1 just 3 days after their original groundbreaking release. I will start with the reason for version 1.1. The difference between the first paper and the second paper is actually a very major one. In many ways, we should all appreciate Hamza's versatility in the huge astronomical concession he has made. Now, I really hate to brag, but I am the reason there is a version 1.1. Yep, it was because of me. I'm not trying to brag, but it was me. Here's the entire story. The claim of the first paper is 1. The Quranic embryology is accurate. 2. Muhammad could not know anything about Greek medicine. 3. The Quran and Muhammad have stated information that was unknown among the Greeks. And what exactly is this unknown information that was first discovered by Muhammad? Well, there are 2 points. 1. The Quran saying mingled fluid. 2. Muhammad saying female nutfa, or female semen, or female egg or the ovum. But that last definition can only be accepted by those who are in favor of superimposing a 21st century understanding onto Muhammad's words. And Hamza establishes that these 2 details were unknown with this very short quote, or misquote, from Galen, which is on page 16 of Hamza's first paper. So Hamza's claim is that Galen, and by extension the Greeks, were unaware of the fact that females made genetic contributions to their child. Now, I had already read most of the relevant parts of Galen's work, so I already knew how badly Hamza had misrepresented Galen. Nevertheless, I decided to confront Hamza on his Facebook page under a fake name called Errol, which, again, is not my real name. And I gave him a quote from page 161 of Galen's On Semen, which says, "Therefore, the statement is false that the semen is only from the father." And Hamza replied, "I will respond to these misplaced arguments later tonight." And later that night, Hamza replies, "Errol, what astonishes me is your approach. I feel sad that you manufacture responses without really understanding the argument, or even reading the paper properly for that matter. The quote from Galen does not mention that the genetic material is from both the mother and the father. Rather, Galen is saying that women have a semen equivalent. And here is my favorite part. Pay close attention to this. Hamza then continues by saying, "You are superimposing a 21st century understanding onto Galen." Oh, the irony. So apparently somebody thinks that it is wrong to superimpose a 21st century understanding onto ancient texts. And he even finds this approach astonishing. Astonishing unless, of course, you're doing it with the Quran. And in that case, it obviously doesn't make you a hypocrite, right? Anyways, he then goes on to misrepresent Galen's work, reinterpret Muhammad's words, and ask how Muhammad could have had this information which was unknown at the time. To which I replied, "Hamza, what astonishes me is that you would ask for $10,000 to write such an unbelievably poor excuse of a miracle claim. On the other hand, your willful ignorance, or deliberate misrepresentation, does not astonish me." Then in 2 separate posts, I gave him one quote from page 50 of the introduction to Galen's On Semen, written by Philip de Lacy, who is the translator of Galen's work. Philip de Lacy describes Galen's views, and he states, "Resemblances to the father are caused by the father's semen. Therefore, resemblances to the mother must be caused by the semen from the mother." And then another quote directly from Galen from page 161 of his book On Semen, which states, "If the offspring have the similarities to parents through semen, it is necessary that the female also produces semen, because many children are observed to be very similar to their mother." At that point, Hamza had no other choice. Although he tried to strawman my comments several times and introduced other silly, desperate arguments, at the end of the day, he had to say, the claim in the paper is that the Quran does not negate established reality. And after being pressed further by the rationalizer on never again using this claim as being miraculous, Hamza replied by saying, "My claims can change. I am sorry. It is part of being human. However, yes, I take that view." It is somewhere during this conversation that Hamza removed the first paper and released the second one. Now, if we go to page 16 of the second paper, it no longer contains the misquotes from Galen. Hamza correctly acknowledges that Galen had already spoken about the genetic contributions from the female. At this point, Hamza is desperately grasping at the straw. That is, Muhammad could not know anything about Greek medicine. And then later in his Facebook post towards Professor P.Z. Myers, he yet again confirms his new position by stating that Quran doesn't predate science. So we see the second paper only claims that Quranic embryology is accurate, and Muhammad could not know anything about Greek medicine. So we see that Hamza has completely dropped the idea of scientific foreknowledge in the Quran. This by itself is a pure victory for those who uphold the truth in the face of delusions. His present claim, which basically is that Muhammad received divine knowledge from an all-knowing God, who for some reason only gave him information which was known hundreds of years before, is not only unimpressive, but it is just plain stupid. Anyways, here is the evolution of the embryology miracle claim. Around the 1980s, Maurice Bucaille and Keith Moore alleged that the Quran contains scientific foreknowledge regarding embryology. For the next 3 decades, Islamic apologists such as Harun Yahya Zakir Naik and Hamza Tzortzis himself used this claim on the authority of Keith Moore, despite the fact that the claim itself was very weak. Hamza and the rest of the world are then told by an accomplished evolutionary developmental biologist named P.Z. Myers that Keith Moore and the Quran are wrong. Following that disaster, Hamza makes an ambitious attempt at rescuing their holy book by releasing a paper where he initially claimed that the Quran was accurate and that it contained miraculous scientific foreknowledge. Just 3 days later, he has reduced his claims, which now only state that the Quran is not wrong. Now, with some honesty, the next logical step should be the acknowledgement of the obvious fact that the Quran is wrong. But I doubt that will happen. So we see the embryology claim going from Muhammad could not know, it is a miracle, to Muhammad could not know, but it doesn't predate science, to Muhammad probably did not know, but the Quran is not wrong. So I guess we should all be thanking Hamza for debunking this 3-decade-old lie that has been touted as a miracle of scientific foreknowledge by dishonest Muslim scholars. And don't worry, Hamza, as you can clearly see, the rest of your paper is being torn to shreds already. This is just my humble request. Please don't ask people for their hard-earned money to go towards this really terrible attempt at salvaging the Quran from its obvious errors. Thanks for watching.
To emphasize the integrity of the character of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If we've got good reasons that he was truthful, then it means we have no good reason to believe that he copied someone and inserted it into the Quran. That means he's a liar. But we know the Prophet, upon him be peace, can only be called someone who's truthful. Why? Because even his enemies called him the truthful. So are you saying the Prophet, upon him be peace, had a time machine? Take what was right, add new things that are still right, reject what was wrong and new was wrong. This is a conspiracy. Or even the atheist apologists on the web. They use the sources for bin Kalada, which are Islamic sources. One of these sources includes Tariq, Al-Rusul, Wal-Mulk. Now this very text also mentions about the miracle of the Quran. That you claim to be a truth claim comes from an Islamic text. Then necessarily you have to believe in all the other truth claims that come from that text as well, which the Prophet was the Prophet, that he was not a liar, he was speaking the truth, and that he had miracles. Do you see how it undermines the whole claim?